I've been talking a lot about this whole thing centered around a consultant mindset, which is really trying to get us to think about how we produce value within the marketplace. Now, what if I told you that the difference between being a replaceable individual and indispensable as a consultant comes down to really your mindset? I know that sounds a bit mad, but essentially, your mindset is the established set of attitudes that you have. Now, before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like videos like this. And of course, if you don't know who I am, my name is MichaelTabirade. I'm an independent management consultant and founder of the consultancy, The Mastery Group. Now, I want to explore exactly what this consultant mindset is. Now, before I get into anything, it's important to understand that for me, a consultant is defined as an individual who is able to solve a specific problem strategically. They've got great problem solving skills and they have a set of different ways in which they solve this problem for an end client, which is deemed as valuable. And so in my mind, I was thinking to myself, okay, cool. Why do organizations keep on hiring consultants? It's because they see them as valuable. And again, contentious, because during a time where cost of living is high and people are finding it difficult to find jobs or articulate their value, etc., or people are saying, oh, it's impossible to do multiple things at one time, or it's difficult to do those things, especially if you've got family X, Y, and Z. Why would I say something like that? It's because I'm only looking at what the evidence is showing me. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying, though, is that this is what is deemed as value for those of you who align to that, or who resonate with that, or who are ready to do work aligned to that, are going to take this on board. For everyone else, you can just drop off the video. It's perfectly fine. So with that in mind, let's keep it moving. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is leveraging skills to become a high value consultant. And I've spoken about this at depth, if I'm honest with you. But really and truly, the way I want to describe this is that you need to be able to position yourself effectively. That's all it is. It comes down to how you brand yourself, okay? So let's say, for example, you are working a 9 to 5 within a specific space. Maybe it's the public sector as an example, and you're working within the operations department doing whatever you're doing. Do you do work that is aligned to something that is recognizable amongst the community of individuals who do what you do? In other words, is there a framework against how you do something? Is there a process around how you do something? And I'm not just saying a process that you have come up with, even though that is useful. Is there something that you work to? Maybe it's in a service specification. Maybe it's against a well-known methodology that is taught globally around the world or even nationally. The point being made is, if you can understand what you align to, then it's easier for you to talk on that thing. It's easier for you to understand. Given different situations, this is specifically what I would do. So it's understanding how you manage risk, how you make decisions, how things are governed, what good looks like in terms of outputs or outcomes or deliverables. So then that gives you the impetus and the opportunity to speak on it more confidently. Many of you will know about the whole sort of idea of using the STAR method. Okay, so that's situation, task, action, result. And one of my mentors back in the NHS back in the day used to say, always add the L to the STAR, which is learning. For me personally, I've reinvented that now, not based on this, but based on my own experience previously in terms of applying for new roles. And I use something that I've called the PAR model. What's the strategic problem that you're solving? What actions do you take to solve that problem, whether that's from an operational or programmatic standpoint? And what tangible results have you received? When you understand this stuff, you put yourself in a position of confidence because you can clearly articulate your competence. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to position ourselves in terms of competence. And so really and truly, when we look at this stuff in a bit more detail, when you understand how you do something and the results that you've achieved, it's clear for you to really highlight what type of expertise you have. It becomes easier because, yes, you have something that is proprietary by nature. You have something that is unique by nature. Only someone like you can solve. And so when it does come to speaking to different people, whether you're networking or whatever it may be, it's easier for you to talk on that stuff, and then you can sort of like discard people who don't really relate to what you're saying and invite people who do relate to what you're saying. This is the beauty of being in a position of being clear about what it is that you do, because then you become an expert. There was somebody on LinkedIn who commented on my post who basically said, you know, it's better to be an expert than a professional, X, Y, and Z. I hear what they're saying. Do I completely agree? Not necessarily. I think being a professional is important because what it enables you to do is speak in a language that everybody should be able to understand. It doesn't mean that you need to compromise yourself. I'm not talking about, you know, getting elocution lessons and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not talking about all that nonsense. What I'm saying is that there is a code, there is an etiquette, there is a way of doing things that enables you to position yourself as somebody who is trusted. It's not just based on what you know and what you deliver. It's also how you conduct yourself. So expertise and professionalism, hand in hand, is a killer combo. Just like chicken and chips, do you know what I mean? Which I've been avoiding for a couple of weeks and days because I'm trying to be good to myself. But the Lord knows I'm craving it. So with that in mind here, remember, if you're trying to network, then it starts with all of that stuff that I said at the beginning. Yes, it develops that expertise, but professionalism is key as well. Do not compromise yourself. There is a certain level of sincerity that you need to have, but the professionalism is the way you conduct yourself. Okay, it's how you deliver value. And so the next area I want to talk to is the biggest mistakes that consultants make. Now, really and truly, here are some things to consider. And again, I know this is very sort of like contract heavy, but I don't want it just to be specific to those people who are consulting or contracting, okay? When I say underpricing yourself, okay, this doesn't just need to relate to the rate you negotiate. So for example, you may be a project manager who's starting contracting for the first time and you're seeing day rates of 250 to 350 pounds per day. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that in 2025. I know there are a lot of organizations that do this. Maybe you would just want to get your foot in the door. Really and truly, you want to set yourself at a rate at 450, 500, 550, 650, depending on what it is that you're doing. I know it's difficult times, but you have to rate yourself, okay? Now, I'm not just saying this out of the air, and this is obviously illustrative, but you would look at the market to see what has been used or is being used, okay, depending on what industry it is, and you would speak to other contractors to understand what they're pricing themselves. And if you're bold enough, you would speak to not even hiring managers, recruiters, to understand exactly what the rate should be, okay? But the point being made is, don't just say yes to anything unless you have a strategy that you're applying to, okay? I know when I started, I stuck to a certain rate and it was actually pretty good for what it was, especially for market entry. And then I pushed it up, and that has been, well, the range has been that range ever since. Of course, as I've accelerated within my space, then that has increased the range, okay? So it's not just about raking in money, but it's about making sure you're at least getting market value. If this is you in a 9 to 5, is there an opportunity at your appraisal or at your review session to renegotiate your rate? And if that is the case, how are you, I guess, evidencing your value? Comes back to what I was saying before in terms of this whole PAR model. What problems did you solve? Have you articulated your actions? And what results, tangible results, have you actually produced? That's what it essentially comes down to. And so that's some of the things that you need to think about. There's also this situation where sometimes you may overpromise, okay? So overpromising that you will deliver something because you feel socially awkward or you feel socially obliged to do this stuff. You know, when there are guarantees that people have with their products and services within their business, when really and truly they can never guarantee a result. Do not be in that position. Always highlight the caveats. So under promise and over deliver. That's what you want to do, because that's how you allow people to generate this trust. Because even by doing that, you don't even know if you're going to deliver. You don't know yet. There may be some issues. So you're protecting yourself. Again, whether contract consulting, 9 to 5, doesn't matter. It's the same principles. So don't overpromise unnecessarily. Okay. The other thing I want to highlight is the fact that sometimes we don't set our boundaries from the beginning. What do I mean by this? Well, essentially what I'm meaning is you need to be very clear about what you will and won't do. It's called scope. What is inside of scope and what is outside of scope? And you need to highlight your deliverables. So when somebody is joining, let's say, for example, an independent consulting gig, which we call in the UK outside of IR35 contracts, typically you write a proposal. And in that proposal, you're very clear about what it is you're definitely going to do and what you're not going to do. And there are some sort of clauses, 1 to 6 or 1 to 5 different clauses that highlight the justification you have of being outside of IR35 or being an independent consultant. You're treated differently, okay? And so really what that means is you clearly highlight if you want to do other contracts, you can. If you want to bring people on board to do the work on your behalf, you can. You're going to be using your own devices and your own materials. You can work when you want to work. Like, there's all this stuff that you can say. Again, if you're in a 9 to 5, maybe it's being clear based on the specification that you have. And when you do start, or during your reviews with your manager or your line manager, whatever it may be, you outline your boundaries. Some people may feel like that's difficult to do and it's a bit more techie. That's fair enough. But at least you have your job specification that you align to. There are so many people, millions, not even thousands, millions of people out there that are doing stuff that isn't aligned to the job spec. And sometimes the job spec is outdated. And of course, there are some people out there who will take the time, and it does take time, to get their job spec reviewed. Sometimes there's no point, but the point being made is if you can have a mature conversation with your colleagues and or your line manager to talk about what you truly do, what you can do, then I think that is a win, because everything comes at a cost. We're in a situation right now where we have, again, I don't want to name names or anything like that, but we have a senior, not even manager, a director essentially, who basically requires the time of other individuals, but they don't have their own team yet. Having the time of those individuals comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. If it's not a monetary cost, which it is, it will be an effort cost. If it's not an effort cost, it's some sort of activity cost. Okay, so boundaries are important to ensure that you protect your space. Very big stuff. And I guess the final thing I want to say is that when you don't give yourself the opportunity to actually niche, at least at the beginning, then it's hard for people to understand what type of expert you are. People don't really know what you do, so they may just give you everything. You know, I remember times before in the past when I was junior / middle management, should we say, and people sometimes would give me some tasks that I was like, that's not for me to do. I remember I got in this big argument with someone because I was like, hey, you're giving me stuff that's not for me to do. But that's because I was just very general in what I delivered on and in terms of how I explained what I did. So it wasn't until I got the backing from my manager at the time who put them in their place and and it got me thinking, like, I need to be extremely clear. No one's going to do this to me again. It's not going to happen. So whether this is, again, contracting, consulting, or an actual role, like a 9 to 5 role, let people know precisely what you do, okay? Whether you're matrix working, collaborative working, whatever it may be. Now, a question I want to ask you guys is, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to positioning yourself as a high-value consultant or a high-value individual, okay? And I'm talking about within the workplace, within your career. So what are the biggest challenges? What are some of the things that you face? And of course, I'm always going to put this offer out. It's been very nice to receive different bookings for individuals over the last couple of days. For those of you who are business leaders, okay, who are looking to develop their portfolio career, maybe it is looking to articulate your value better. Maybe you want to transition into contracting. Maybe you need someone by your side to give you advice when you're in your role or in your current role, so that you have the confidence and competence to basically become a high value individual within your workspace. Then again, feel free to look at the links below, fill out the form, and let's have an initial conversation to see how you can excel. So the next thing I want to talk about is building credibility, okay? So this is really, really important. Here in the UK, yeah, we're very shy to talk about our accolades. We're very shy to talk about how well we have done at X, Y, and Z. We need to stop this culture. There's a lot of nonsense that's going on right now when it comes to the government, when it comes to our economy, when it comes to the cost of living. And yes, a lot of these big players are to blame. You know, the wars that are happening globally, the silly decisions and the backings that have been happening when it comes to, let's say, for example, X country or X organization or whatever it may be. It's affecting us, not just here in the UK, but globally. But we have to put a stand and we have to position ourselves as best as possible where we feel we can. Because I know there are some people say, oh, it's easier said than done. Everything's easier said than done. But the point being made is it can be done. That's the point. It's what are you willing to do to position yourself to harness opportunities? And this is where brand comes into play. Why do you think there are so many different organizations that are overinflated, that have high investment and high caps when it comes to their businesses? And then you got things like DeepSeek that are coming in and other Chinese AI organizations that are just debunking that stuff. It's because brand has an element of currency when it comes to this society that we live in right now, this capitalist society, okay, for as long as we have it for at the moment. And so it's important for you to showcase your skills. You may do this, okay, when you are talking to people, introducing your stuff at work. Maybe it comes to situations on LinkedIn as an example, okay? That's your opportunity to showcase your stuff, whether it is in the portfolio section or whether it's in the experience section or the about section, or maybe it's your headline. You do this 100% when it comes to your CV, okay? You'll do this on your website if you have a website, just one landing page. If you've got recommendations or testimonials, again, on LinkedIn or whatever it may be, showcase that stuff. Talk about what you do. When you're meeting people at events, talk about what you do and any recent results you've helped people get. It's important. Practice this. If you're scared to do it, you film it, okay? You do your pitch. No one's ever going to remember their pitch 100%. And even if they do, that's great. But the point being made is it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to say what you need to say. You know, what do you specifically do? Who do you help? How do you help them do it? What benefits do they get? That's the high level sort of approach. So talk to that stuff. Maybe you want to create content. Content is not by force. You don't have to do YouTube, LinkedIn, this, that, that. You don't have to. But it does help, especially if you've got a winning formula. For me right now, I am focusing on the career space. Of course, there's many other stuff that I can talk about. I can talk about resilience, life management, emotional intelligence, leadership, X, Y, and Z. But the career space is where I'm at the moment in terms of a thing that I'm realizing that people want to hear from me from. Okay, not everybody, but you know, those who want to listen, they listen. So have something, have a framework that you align yourself to based on different things that you may talk about and post about it. Lessons learned, okay? Things that you've read in the news, different statistics and stuff, contentious stuff, you know? Like these are all different things we're going to do, and you'll have a writing style or talking style that resonates with different types of people. You also want to be able to put yourself in a position where you are leveraging your... Actually, let me rephrase that. You want to be able to put yourself in a position where you're getting the right type of qualifications and skills. So for me, recruiters see that I have managing successful programs or change management. And so they think, okay, this guy's competent, then he's aligned it with his results based on what he's written on his CV and or proposal. Okay, that makes sense. Tick. It is what it is. So hopefully that makes sense. And finally, again, doing these side gigs that could turn into something, whether that is coaching, advising, auditing, reviewing, I don't know. It could be a GPT. It could be an agentic tool. Okay, so maybe you've got some sort of agent that you create for people. It could be a process improvement. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. It could be a workshop. It could be a talk. All of this stuff contribute to you really edifying your brand, your niche, your opportunity to provide value. So quick bonus tip here. In order to attract higher paying clients, okay, so whether this is B2B, so business to business, or B2C, business to consumer, you want to be able to talk about their pains, okay? I've spoken about premium branding and looking on point and all that kind of stuff there. I've spoken about all this stuff. But the one thing that I want to talk about is talk to their pains. I spoke about this in a previous video, and I think it's very important to make sure that when you are talking to a potential hiring client or you're talking to a recruiter, let them understand that you understand them. Let them understand that you can help them solve their pains. That is the biggest hack. Whenever I'm in interview, when I'm answering a question, okay, sometimes I say a little side thing to make it, let them know that I understand how the NHS works. I understand how public sector works. I understand how the leadership space works. Therefore, they're like, okay, he gets it. He had that little side comment. Did it? Like, it's kind of in a jokey vibe, but it's like, I see you. I know where you're at. I know exactly what, because I've solved those problems before. I'm not just saying it on my website. I'm not just saying it on my CV. I'm not just saying it on my portfolio. I've solved this stuff before. So I am the best person for this job. I'm the best person for this role. I'm the best person to deliver value for you. And so that is the biggest hack. And so that's important. I think another hack is using referrals. And of course, this can look like so many different things. But as my brother-in-law once said, and my sister once said, closed mouths don't get fed. So you need to be able to open your mouth and talk to the fact that you are able to do X things and you may be looking for opportunities. If you don't say this stuff, nobody is going to know. They're not going to know. They're not going to know. So you thinking that you've said it so many times, or you haven't said it enough times. That's what I've learned. Say it more. Say it more. Say it more. Tell your ex-colleagues. Tell your local friends. When I say local, your close friends. I don't know why I said local. Tell friends and family, okay? Tell your hiring managers. Set up meetings with them on, I don't know, a quarterly basis if you need to. Whether you're in a role or not, so they know what sort of things you're looking for. Put it on LinkedIn and stuff like that. You need to let people know what you're about. So hopefully that's ingrained in your mind when it comes to some of this stuff, okay? I'm not going to talk to the other stuff because, again, I've spoken to this stuff already. I know people want to know more about sort of like how do you find decision makers and stuff. Really and truly, you need to go where they're going. It's that simple. There's nothing else to it. So position yourself in that space. So to summarize, make sure you articulate your expertise in the best way possible because, again, that positions you as an authority. Avoid putting yourself in a position where you're underpricing, overpromising, or generalizing. Okay, you need to be clear about what your specific niche is. Showcase your skills, create content, and leverage any sort of micro projects or opportunities to develop your skills even further. And target pain points. That's the biggest hack. Target pain points and let other people know how you solve those pain points so you can position yourself as somebody who can help. So hopefully that's been extremely clear to you. So let's definitely connect. And again, if you want a competitive edge in the market as a business leader within your career, then again, make sure to complete the form below. And as I always say, if you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, contracting, consulting, leadership, life management, resilience, the whole shebang, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.